And a good early afternoon on this Monday. Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights, VELCO Weather Hazards Forecaster. First, looking at the tropics, we have Franklin, which is a Category 1 hurricane that's going to be spinning up and powering up to potentially a Category 4. This has it near as Bermuda, which is roughly in this vicinity here. Looks like it's going to make a little bit of a right turn. All of this eventually taking place as an area of higher pressure is going to be developing and putting the block on this system, with this upper level trough kind of steering it out to sea. The other storm we're looking at, the tropical cyclone, which is going to spin up to a Category 1 hurricane, and that's IDALIA. IDALIA is going to be making a track, spinning up to a Category 2 and possibly a Category 3 hurricane in the vicinity of the Florida Gulf coastal region, generally east of Tallahassee and north of Tampa Bay. This particular area across the Big Bend is then going to cut across. It looks like as a tropical storm, it'll weaken considerably, but then ride the coast, and it could power up again, especially as it hits the Gulf Stream waters closer to Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. That's a long ways out. This is going to take basically all week long, so we'll be watching that very carefully. Temperature-wise, we have the heat that continues across the Gulf coastal regions, mostly in the far south. Things have cooled off considerably, and it's thanks to this flow over the top of this ridge of higher pressure. Now note, this ridge of higher pressure is also reporting, many reporting stations showing this little funny symbol here. This is smoke. And so we have a lot of smoke, and of course from the wildfires up in this general area here. That smoke is going to be heading downstream based on this upper level low, and you can see the flow here with these tan colors. Now for our region today, we're looking at generally a lot of fog early on this morning, but conditions have improved considerably. Temperatures are making a nice rise, and we should be heading for temperatures basically in the mid-70s. You'll note just a little bit of a disturbance down here. This is also going to spread some cumuliform clouds along the ridgelines, especially central, maybe a little bit into central Vermont, mostly southern and central areas of the greens. And what you're going to see is maybe a couple sprinkles in this particular area here, but not a whole lot going on today. The caveat basically for that, and really it's just basically a dry day across from most of Vermont. European on the left, we have the Canadian gem on the right. And what we see here is just a little tiny bit of precipitation trying to spread along the Green Mountains and points east. That's really not a big factor. The main issue is this stuff that's going to be coming across over toward the Binghamton area, and it's going to try to work its way into central and northern Vermont primarily. So we run that model. It looks like it's going to be after midnight or so. That's 05. This is 6Z. That's about 2 o'clock in the morning. And a little bit of this is going to be working in. This is the Canadian model again. It is definitely showing the same kind of thing with these 3-hourly increments showing. Then things kind of become a little bit more sparse as this band kind of lifts further up to the north. And then we get this system here that then will attract a lot of that moisture and pull it up the coast. So just running the modeling here, you can see by really mostly on Tuesday, not as much going on. But you get into Tuesday night and Wednesday, this is where we could have some showers and thunderstorms. If we're going to have any impacts for utilities, I think basically Wednesday would be the day with some shower and thunderstorm activity. Any breaks in the clouds or intervals of sunshine will lead to more instability. And there is a little bit of shear working across the region, around 35 knots. So if something were to get organized, that would be the day to see it. Right now, it's kind of doubtful. It looks like fairly low-topped convection, mainly showers, maybe a wannabe thunderstorm. It's kind of a low Cape, moderate shear kind of day. So looking at the end of the day here, this would be about 8 o'clock in the evening on Wednesday night. We get into Wednesday night, that basically settles on out, and we have this big fat area of higher pressure that's going to build into the region. It's putting the block on any tropical cyclones and keeping those to the south and southeast of the region. And this is going to be a nice fat area of higher pressure. It's going to afford us probably about 2.5 days of dry weather. All of that starts Wednesday night. It goes into probably the first part of Saturday before we start to see stronger wind fields, more or less zonal, moving in from west to east and making things a little bit more unsettled. Looks like this will be moving in on Saturday night. And then on Sunday, something maybe residual there. And then things get a little bit more active beyond that, but we'll have to wait and see. That's a long ways out, and there's a lot of departure from unanimous consent, you might say. This is 3-hourly QPF. This is today here. We're looking at generally dry conditions and maybe a couple sprinkles. And this is the Montpelier grid, of course, the GFS ensemble. And then things start to perk up just a little bit. And this is the main affair, and that's going to be basically on Wednesday as we get into Wednesday night. And then we dry things out for Thursday, Friday, and into the day on Saturday. Longer range barely shows up here in the GFS ensemble. Looking at the a total amount of QPF, we're looking at somewhere around 0.8 to about 1 inch of rainfall. The latest GFS model came in a little bit short of that, but this is going to be the big day here. Again, it all starts basically overnight tonight and lingers a little bit on into Tuesday, but light, and then things pick up thereafter. Now, looking at the precipitable water, this is how it shapes up here. So it's a pretty good surge of moisture coming in from the southwest, kind of working its way up the coast. And in terms of shear, well, first we're going to look at convective available potential energy. This is probably the day we're going to see the best chances for that. And then looking at shear or wind fields aloft, you're looking at maybe up to around somewhere between 35 and 40 knots. But all of that mostly occurs after. It's a little bit offset, and that's the good news in terms of Cape. Cape being on Wednesday, and then things dry out. So the winds will blow stronger aloft, but that's not going to be a concern as we dry things out with an area of higher pressure building in very nicely. Everything moving up the coast, of course, association with IDALIA and the onset of what could be a landfalling hurricane, a category 1 or 2, and then moves out here, and you can see kind of separate lines of precipitation. Another precipitation max occurs to the south of our region. We're indicating somewhere around a 1/2 inch to 1/4 of an inch northern areas, 1/2 inch to about 1 inch in southern parts of the state. And temperature-wise, I am seeing a little bit of oscillation starting to happen. I noted the fire and the smoke activity early on in this this video. Well, it's a concern because it's coming from these areas that are massively above normal in terms of temperatures. You can see that British Columbia all the way up into the Yukon. It's very much fire prone here. Our neck of the woods, we're below normal. Again, this is 2-meter temperature anomalies. And we have weighted max temperatures over the course of the next 5 days. The meteorological output statistics, it shows near normal for the next 5 days, I should say. And then about 3 days later, we trend a little bit above normal. So we go from neutral to a little bit above normal. And that's going to be the trend as we head into especially late this week and into this coming weekend. European ensemble, tropical cyclone forecast. What we can see is the main two systems here. This is Franklin and this is Idalia. Let's set it in motion. This is Bermuda, by the way, this little black dot. Gives you an idea where the landfall is going to be taking place here. And these are the main systems to watch. Of course, this makes a turn thanks to this area of higher pressure. This would be valid on Thursday night, and that high-pressure system will only just continue to build across the region and make sure that any tropical systems make that slow right turn and recurve out to sea. All good news there. Again, we have Franklin. Looks like we have max sustained winds of 100 knots, gust 115 miles per hour. Movement north-northwest at about 8 miles an hour. And then we have Idalia. That's the one to watch. It's going to make landfall here in the Big Bend territory, north of Tampa Bay, east of Tallahassee. That's it from here. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.